Did Donald Trump defy SCOTUS? Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe and let's talk about this, okay? So, it has been spread, the news, and many scholars have written and said that the Supreme Court, in the Garcia ruling, unanimously said that there was a right to due process and that there were habeas corpus claims for each of these people who have been illegally removed. However, the Supreme Court did not directly rule that Donald Trump has to bring them back, Abrego Garcia and the rest, and afford them due process of law by way of habeas corpus petitions, and then look into whatever else other law, the immigration acts that would oversee that whether that person is legally able to stay in the United States or not. All of those things did not really directly tell Donald Trump to do. What the Supreme Court did in the Garcia case was it said that yes, there is this right to due process, there is this right, they have habeas corpus rights on in the jurisdiction where they have been detained, and I would assume if they have not been detained, and if there are ICE raids going to pick them up and they are being detained in New Jersey where they're also residents, that would be the jurisdiction for that putative class. And so now talking about, so by remanding, so Judge Sinis initially ordered the facilitation and the effectuation of bringing them back. It was appealed. The Supreme Court said, you have to really define what you mean by effectuate. So Judge Sinis, on remand, changed effectuate to the court directs the government to give status hearing on what is happening. And so then it got stonewalled over and over and over by the DOJ by them technically following the judge's ruling, but not substantively giving the judge any information about Abrego Garcia. Why did this happen? It happened because the Supreme Court said that there is due process and there is habeas corpus claims, but did not direct the president to bring them back to afford them these rights. The Supreme Court remanded it to Judge Sinis. And I want to point out here that Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he will not follow lower court orders. No, he said, in a direct way. But he said he will follow Supreme Court decisions. So how do we know that would be true? If you look at the ACLU order that the Supreme Court issued in the middle of the night at 1 a.m., that stopped a putative class of people from being removed from the United States and directed the government. The Supreme Court directed the executive branch to stop the removal and turn those buses around. And what did Donald Trump's DOJ do? They turned the buses around. What did Donald Trump's DHS do? They turned the buses around. So when today Abby Phillip of CNN makes the point that Donald Trump had not defied SCOTUS directly, there was blowback. But she is actually right. Donald Trump has not defied a direct Supreme Court order yet. So if that was the tipping point of a constitutional crisis, then we have not gotten to that threshold yet. Because it does seem that when SCOTUS makes a direct order to the government of Donald Trump Donald Trump's government responds. But if Supreme Court makes a ruling and then remands it to the lower court to deal with it, under normal circumstances, normal presidents, every president since Washington, I can't say Washington, from when the Justice Department was, instated to today, they have followed the judicial ruling of a Supreme Court and then taken the remand to mean that the district court was now working under the ruling of the Supreme Court, and therefore that lower court and that lower court's ruling is given deference unless it goes completely against what the Supreme Court's ruling says. So essentially, it makes Judge Sinis's court the substantive player in figuring out how to bring Abrego Garcia back, how to facilitate and direct the return of Abrego Garcia to a jurisdiction of where he can have his habeas corpus. So I wanted to make this clear that Abby Phillip is not wrong. Donald Trump has yet to defy a SCOTUS order, but I would say that it does not mean that we have not at least waded into several constitutional crises, because Donald Trump's DOJ has not followed Judge Sinis's order. That case is still languishing in discovery, the Abrego Garcia case. And there are other cases going up to the Supreme Court about these detentions that are happening. Many of them detentions because their removal hasn't happened yet. And on that note, the Abrego Garcia case is novel. And as with anybody who brings cases for people like Andrew Romero, who was taken up, I think was made a lead plaintiff in one of the cases. So with that said, I will stop here. But if you don't believe me, go and read the opinions, okay? Go and read the two opinions. I have provided in the reference box my summaries of those rulings, and in those videos, there are links to the SCOTUS ruling. Sorry, I'm being a bit lazy about it and not giving you direct links to it. I've talked about it many times. The rulings are in the Supreme Court's website in opinions, and also the links that I'm giving you has those links to those rulings as well. With that said, thank you so much for listening. I hope you'll check out those orders and see what I'm talking about, and I hope you will share and like. Thank you so much.